Hey Charles, how's it going?
Hey, Janine, it's good. I'm excited to do this with you.
Yes, I'm so excited. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. So, for those of you that don't know, I'm Janine Air with Blue Door Realty Group, and this is Charles Lynch with USA Mortgage. And we just wanted to come together today and talk a little bit about interest rates, what everybody is buzzing about right now. Charles, I'm going to pick your brain today. Do you have a minute that I can?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so one of the first things I wanted to ask you about, just to go ahead and get it started, what is the current interest rate right now, and how does that compare historically?
Well, I'm glad you asked it that way because to say what is the current interest rate, it depends on the person. So just to throw out a flat number, it's not really fair because you could be on either side of that number depending on things like your credit score. But we are around 7%. You could go maybe as low as 6.8, maybe as high as 7.8, but somewhere in that area is pretty much normal right now. Now, where does that compare historically? I went back over rates from 1974 to now, so 48 years. The average interest rate over that time is 7.81.
Okay.
We are right there, actually a little less historically for almost the last 50 years. It seems high because in the last 10 years, we've been seeing rates in the threes. So it looks like we're in this but we're not. We're in a historically normal interest
Okay.
rate. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for explaining it, because yeah, I think everybody's just kind of freaking out about the interest rates and stuff right now. And what can you go a little bit deeper into, like, what affects a buyer's personal rate? I know you said it could like range from six something to 7.8. Like, what does
Right.
affect a
There are
interest?
some things that affect that the buyer has no control over. But the things that a buyer controls, number one, the most important is your credit score. There are tiers when we price out a loan, that there are tiers to the pricing. It gets the higher the credit score, the better the pricing is. 620 is our lowest tier. 640, you generally see a better rate. 680, better still. And then if 700 and above, the rates are basically the best you're going to get. So one thing the buyer can control is their credit score. Come to me ahead of time, let me look at your credit, go over it with you, put a plan together to get your credit higher. And the higher your score, the better you'll see your rate is.
I got you. That does make perfect sense. And we're going to have to save the credit scores and stuff like that for a whole other topic, because I'm sure we can spend a lot of time on that.
Absolutely. For sure. Absolutely.
And I hear people talk about how they go online and just, they see that their interest rate is this or this and this, and I think a lot of times people just assume that that's what their interest rate, just because they do some Google search, that that's what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, we call that clickbait. It's something to get you to click on there so they can get your attention. Just because you see an interest rate online, that's based on nothing. Someone is throwing that out there, just like your first question to me. What is an interest rate? I can't tell you exactly without knowing who you are. I need to pull your credit, see what your credit score is, your credit history. What is the loan to value on that house? How much are you putting down? How much is that house appraising for? All of those things affect that. So for something on the computer to just say, this is a rate, you can't say that without knowing a person's history. I say to buyers all the time, I can be anything online. If I am online dating, I'm 6'2", 190 pounds. Then I show up for dinner, I'm not that at all. And we have buyer's remorse, right? So just because you see something online doesn't make it true. We all should know that by now.
Okay. And, I've had like several buyers. Some are just on the fence right now. They're like, should I wait? Like, when do you think the market's going to come down? And, I can give them my thoughts on everything, but I'd love to hear your perspective of, like, should these buyers be waiting to buy? Should they be waiting 6 months or a year to wait to see if interest rates should go if they should go down or not.
Yeah, it's it's never a good idea to wait if they're renting. Um, if you're renting, 100% of what you're paying for rent is going to someone else. Someone else is benefiting from that. You're not getting anything back from that. If you're buying, and let's say you're buying at a high rate of 7.5, even 8, that's 8% that is going toward interest, but you're still building financially, an investment for yourself. So there's still going to be some equity there for you. You're still going to earn off of the money that you're paying on that mortgage. So that in and of itself is a reason not to buy and not to rent. House prices, now we did see in the past year, house prices just escalated just very fast, almost daily, it seemed like. And people would make a bid on a house, and they were having to bid a lot of times more than what the seller was asking for. And the reason why they were doing that is there's 5, 6, maybe 10 people bidding on that same house. So in order to secure that house, they had to pay more for it than what they're even asking. Now, recently, we've seen that come down. You're not seeing a whole lot of that anymore. House prices have come down. So while that's not the same as rates, what we're really talking about, it's still, there was two things going against a buyer for a while. Now that's not the same. House prices are now coming back down. Now, interest rates, they are higher than what they have been, but we always say date the rate, marry the house. If you
Hmm.
find the house that you're in love with and you see yourself settling into this house for long term, you don't want to pass on that house that you may never see again.
Yeah.
You date the rate because the rate's here for now, but it's not here forever. That rate is going to change. It's cyclical. They always do. Every year that I looked from 1974 to now, the rate was never the same year after year after year. It changed every single year. And rates change hour to hour. What the rate is right now, I could price the loan by 2 o'clock this afternoon. That rate may be different. So the rates are constantly going to change. And we're going to talk later, maybe I think about some things of how we could even benefit you more with that rate in the long term. So yeah, it's not a good idea to give money in rent when you could be building more financial security for yourself by buying.
Yeah. And you actually just bought a house too, didn't you?
Yeah, so I just closed 8 days ago. And so, I'm doing myself what I'm preaching to my clients to do. Just bought a house, and in my situation, the sellers were asking a certain amount. We actually offered 20,000 less than that. No, that's, you normally wouldn't advise to do that, but they met us in the middle, and we ended up buying the house for $25,000 less than what it appraised for. So now I'm not saying everyone is going to have that equity, but it just goes to show you 6 months ago that would not have happened.
Yeah.
House prices, there's not as many people trying to get the same house and fighting over that same house to where they got to outbid one another.
Yeah. You're not paying overpriced for a house
Yeah,
anymore.
and that shows you someone who's in the industry who deals with this every day. Fear is a powerful thing, and there's more. Sometimes people talk about things so much like these rates and how in the housing market to where it gets bigger than what it really is. There are
Mhm.
things, whenever there's a challenge, smart people in this industry do things to combat that challenge and make things better for buyers, and that's happened. It's being corrected.
Yeah. It's so refreshing being able to talk to you about all this stuff. And it's definitely comforting to know that for people, they shouldn't have to be scared of the rates right now and everything. And it could change. And also your company, don't you all offer, I believe, like refinancing options, like free financing options? And what is the 2-1 buy down? I'm not really sure about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so those are two of those things that I was kind of referring to that we use to combat these interest rates. One of them is our possibility protection program. And what that is let's say a buyer buys a house now when interest rates are a little higher than what they've been. We promise them that we will refinance their house, their mortgage, once the rates correct themselves, once the rates come back down at no cost. So
Wow.
the thing that is big for us and sets us apart, every loan officer, every lender, mortgage company, they're going to be wanting to refinance you once the rates go down. But where we're different, where we're setting ourselves apart is we're going to do that for you at no cost. So yeah, you buy the house now at say 7%. A year from now, let's say rates drop, we'll refinance you back into those lower rates, and it's going to be at no cost to you. That second program, the 2-for-1 buy down, the way that works is a buyer gives a seller gives a seller concession. So they're saying, we'll pay X amount of dollars toward this closing. Let's say that number is $3,000. That could be a very legit number, somewhere around in there. We take that money and we buy down the rate. So we pay it toward the rate buy down. So let's say this person's rate was going to be 7%. The seller pays this for this buy down. The buyer now, instead of having 7%, their interest rate is 5% for the first year. The second year, it goes up to 6%. And then the third year after, it would be 7%. Now, the hope is, the plan is, rates are going to go down before we get to those second and third years. So you're at 5%, and then on that, say that second year, rates are back down, let's say 4%, whatever. We refinance them into the lower rate. What's the difference there? A 5% on a $200,000 purchase. At 7%, the principal and interest would be $1,306.50 a month. At 5%, it's $1,054.19. So we're talking about a difference of $3,028 a year between those two rates. So by this seller paying a $3,000 buy down, our buyer saves $3,000 in that year by having a 5% instead of 7%. And then after that year's over, hopefully the rates are back down. We refinance them at no cost, and now they're back at a better rate. So it's just a way to combat some of these. There are tools, there are programs that we can use to help, against these higher rates.
That it does sound like your company has a lot to offer, and it makes it definitely not scary to think that you're not just stuck at that 7%, 7-8 or whatever it is, that there is options that you can refinance whenever it does go down, and you're not just stuck, and might as well just go for the house that you really want, because that house that you really want might not be available 6 months from now. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to probably wrap this up with you because I could pick your brain for hours, honestly. And if you want, I would love to start doing some more topics with you weekly if you have some time. Like there's so many I could pick your brain about. And
yeah, let's do it. It's exciting. I love it. I love putting information out there for our buyers.
You left me fist bump.
Fist bump.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time today. And I really do appreciate you breaking it down and explaining all that. It helps me be able to explain to my buyers too and sellers on things that are going on in the market. So
absolutely. Anytime.
I appreciate it so much. Well, I hope you have a great day.
You too. Talk to you
All right.
later. All right.
Bye, Charles.
Bye-bye.